Okay, you were talking a minute ago about being in the Navy and being in New Guinea, and then you were just telling me a little story about Australia. So go ahead.
All right. As we left New Guinea, we went to Australia. Remember, we'd been at sea for like 30 days, and the only time we got off the ship was that little uh, 30 minutes or an hour in New Guinea, where we stood on the beach there. Not the beach, but
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the beach. And I'll go the ladies and so forth. But we got to New Guinea, or got to Australia, Sydney, Australia. Beautiful city. Beautiful, just everything. And the people spoke good English. Of course, Australia is part of the British family. Uh, and they could all speak good English, so forth. Uh, the girls were just great, and great to see us, because before us there had been some British sailors that sort of felt like Australia owned them, or they owned Australia. And here we, with our ship, came in. There were about 30 of us sailors on it, U.S. sailors. But we took advantage of the situation. And girls were nice to us and so forth. And I can remember we had to be careful in a way, because the British was out to get us, the British sailors. And there's two instances I can remember sitting on a bench in a park with a young lady, and along come this British sailor, who I found out later was Canadian. And he comes along and he said, "You Yanks are terrible. I hate the Yanks. I hate the United States." He said, "I don't know why you don't go home. You need to leave." And I started to get up, and I was going to have a few words with him. And about that time I said, "Let him alone." And I said, looked up, and here comes another American sailor, U.S. sailor. He said, "He's mine for the night." I've been following him all over town, all over the city. And he pushed him, and he said, "Move along, Snuffy. You belong to me. Leave this guy alone." I said, I got up a little bit, followed him. He had this guy up against the tree, just slapping him all back and forth. So that was a big kick. Another one was, we was being hassled, and I guess being this young lady, I don't remember where we were at, what the occasion was, getting ready to get on some kind of small boat or something like that. And some guy made a crack at her, and she said, "Go crawl back in the apple." And, what you mean? I asked her, I said, "What'd you mean when you told that guy to go crawl back in the apple?" He said, "He's a worm." I said, "Oh." So their humor was a little bit different than ours. But anyway, that was great being an Australian and learning their worries. So they were like the British. You would tell them a story or a joke, like, it was 5 minutes later they would catch it. On that time, in my fashion, trying to tell jokes all the time and so forth. Now I'm on the 3 or 4 jokes later. They're just catching on to the first one. So they were a little slow in that regards. But anyway, we left Australia. We're taking on new food and water and fresh water and just, all kind of stuff. Supplies. We were getting ready to go someplace. We didn't know. They wouldn't tell you where you're going. So we finally left Australia and get out to sea a little bit. And we were leaving the Pacific. Didn't know where to, but we were going around. You never looked on the map to see where Australia is. You see it's a large country, and go around the south part of it, and you're heading to the Middle East. So away we headed toward the Middle East someplace. Me, where I come from and so forth, don't even talk about Middle East, because that meant nothing to me. But we sailed and sailed. Not sailed, we didn't have sails, but our ship went for like 30 days again. It seemed like when we took on the the meat in Australia, they didn't have any beef, but they had lamb instead of beef, so forth. So the cook had to make out and made lots of lamb stew. I don't know if you ever ate lamb stew or not, but to do this day after day, kind of terrible. Many times I would eat dinner with a bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes, something like that. And mainly because where my gun station was towards the back of the ship, where the galley was, where the cook had their meals and so, or not meals, but where they did the cooking and so forth. And right outside of where my gun station was a vent that came from the kitchen. And that vent carried the odor of this lamb cooking. Well, you stand there for a number of days, 30 days, smelling that lamb being cooked day after day, and then go down and try to eat it. It got to me be the most terrible thing I ever went through. That's why I ended up with, we did have cornflakes, and I ended up eating cornflakes. But that was the end of my lamb, end of my,
So you haven't had lamb since?
no, but I did eat lots of peanut butter, because they have peanut butter in a can, and that came from Australia, and that was good. I love peanut butter anyway, but that was good. But anyway, we went on and on and on, didn't see any land for day after day, and every once in a while we get a radio report. We did not have radar on this ship. We get reports of submarines in the area we were at. So I didn't see a submarine before and so forth. So I remember in the middle of the night, we had so-called general quarters. We're out manning their guns, and the word was, hold your fire, hold your fire. So on the horizon, you can see the submarines sitting out there. Well, the submarines, I don't know if you know it or not, but back in those days, they had to come up on the water and charge their batteries. Well, they do that lots of times in the middle of the night, and here in the moonlight sits a submarine on the horizon. And I said, man, I'm going to take a shot at him. Again, I was told, hold your fire, hold your fire. Okay, so I held my fire and sit there and looked. So finally we kept going, and the submarine sort of vanished, I guess, in the off the horizon and so forth. So we stood there for hours and hours. 2 days later, we pulled into this port. I noticed we were starting to see land, and land on, it looked like more like desert or anything like that to me. Get up to this place, and I got off watchman midnight, I guess it was, and didn't have to go back on watch till 8 the next morning. So I was pretty tired, sleeping. I slept for almost 8 hours, because I've been 8 hours or longer without any sleep. And woke up, and wasn't any noise, ship wasn't running, anything like that. So I said, hell, we're stopped. So I got up about that time, walked out on deck, and sure enough, we're stopped, and we're tied up at this port, I guess. I wondered, where the hell are we at? So somebody came by that time, and from one of the shipmates, I said, where are we? He said, Iran. I said, where? He said, Iran. He just came up to Persian Gulf. I said, oh, it's 1944, mind you. Again, I said, where is that? He said, well, in the Middle East. He said, right over there, and he pointed over there. Away, that's Saudi Arabia. I said, that's nothing but desert. See a few people on camels. He said, well, it is. It's dead. But he said, you know those derricks all out there? Those are our wells. We're a tanker. To put two and two together, we're allies with Iran, and they let us refuel instead of all of our ships come in here to refuel, the tankers like I was on would, this is like, it's a gas station, and we turn out to be the gas station, and we will leave Iran and go back around to the Pacific and refuel the American fleet, the ships, Navy ships, so forth. Instead of the Navy ships coming all the way up here to get refueled, we pick up the refuel stuff, and away we go. Well, okay, sound interesting, and it was. Countryside was interesting and so forth. The people was nice to us and so forth. And it was funny on one of these trips, because we made 3 trips up there, 3 or 4 trips. We called it a round trip shuttle. And from Iran around to the Pacific, and then take another 30 days to get around the Pacific. And we would end up, lots of times, refueling a British ship, warship. Now they kept their ships down around India. And the first, right out of the bat, the first thing when we left on one of our trips, we stopped at India. Well, it wasn't India, it was right below India, a place called Ceylon. Now it's called Sri Lanka. This is still 1944. I'm still 17 years old. Didn't know where Sri Lanka was, so forth. But as we were going along, tied up to this cruiser, Royal, not the Air Force, Royal Navy cruiser, right flat from London with all their pride and proper sailors in their beautiful suits and all that stuff. And here we are, a bunch of scrubs, because we didn't really wear our uniforms on the ship, because they didn't want the world to know that there's Navy people on there. So we dressed pretty casual, wore shorts and t-shirts and blah, blah, blah. But as we were tied up and refueling this cruiser, they had a swimming pool on the back of this cruiser. Would you believe it? Right out in the middle of the Pacific or what have you. There's a swimming pool. They had made this thing, this canvas thing. And we would stand there and watch these guys hoop and holler and play in that swimming pool. Oh, we loved that thing. So later that night, we happened to go over there to take a dip, slip on their ship. Somehow somebody had a knife and made a hole in their swimming pool. We didn't get along too well with the British. And after that, they came aboard our ship because we had fresh water. They didn't have drinking water. They didn't have fresh drinking water. So they asked permission to come aboard and get a drink of water. Well, before we know it, here comes the whole damn Navy, British Navy, on our ship. They carried buckets and canteens and everything else. And we finally ran them off. And, you know, it was only, again, less than 30 of us, but we played tough guys and got them off there. And this Navy, their captain, got a hold of our captain and said, these guys punched a hole in our swimming pool. Our crew worked 30 days or more on that swimming pool, and you guys came over and punched a hole in it. And he said, not my guys, they wouldn't do anything like that. So we got a big laugh out of that. We finally got away from that cruiser. We said, well, Brett's here it again, we got you again. But we would run into occasions ever since the other places, and so we just didn't like the British, and they didn't like us. So I hate